Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year. This is your host, JP, and welcome to the World's Greatest Leaders podcast. It is currently 10:50 p.m. on January 1st of 2020. I just want to give you guys a little intro of what is this going to be about. I started this podcast. I want to bring in on some people that I know, some people that I work with, some people that I admire as leaders, and I want to bring them on and talk to you guys about leadership experience and how to become a better leader and what have they done to be able to push them this far and becoming leaders in this community. The episode was recorded 2 days ago. It was recorded on the 30th of December. I'm just now doing some editing and being able to bring it on. The guy I'm gonna have on, it's a really special guy. He's really made an impact on my life in my military career. And let's get this started. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna have a lot of good people on here, people from all over the place, and they're gonna be sharing a whole bunch of different experiences, so some great stuff. So stay tuned.
Hear the devil calling. Well, I hear the devil calling. Gotta pay him what he's due. I can't stop the dogs of war. I can't stop the dogs of war.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the World's Greatest Leaders podcast. Today I have a really special guest with me. The guy is an animal. He's probably one of the most qualified NCOs I ever met. Senior rated jump master. The dude is a beast at physical fitness. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to First Sergeant Max Pumfrey. He's currently the first sergeant at the HHT troop in the 191 Cav 173rd Airborne Brigade, stationed here in Grafenwehr, Germany. And how you doing today, Max?
I'm good. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. It's a big honor to have you on the podcast, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come spend some time with me and share some knowledge to the listeners. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your military experiences? Where have you been?
So, in a brief, I mean, obviously, JP, you know me better than a lot of people. I am 35 years old. I'm married, been married for 13 years. I have two daughters. One is 10. The oldest will be 13 at the end of this week, which brings its own challenges, her being a teenager now. Been in the Army for a total of 17 years. Currently the first sergeant of HHT 191 Cav. Spent a lot of time in the 82nd, both 1st and 2nd Brigades. Was an ROTC instructor at Arizona State University. Did some time on recruiting. Have a bachelor's degree in education. Education and the development of others is one of the things that has led me to stay in the Army this long. And jump master qualified. Big into physical fitness. I try to push myself hard every day.
You runs 100 miles every week, FYI.
Used to, not currently. But I do run a lot. I work out a lot, and it's a passion of mine. It's one of my three primary stress relievers. And it greatly helps me to collect my thoughts and maintain positive every day.
All right. So those that don't know, me and First Sergeant Pumfrey, he was my first sergeant when he was Bulldog Troop's first sergeant. When he got here, I looked at him. I was like, "Damn, this dude has a big jaw. He walks like he has a lot of pride. He's not going to be good," but he ended up probably being the best first sergeant I ever had, other than the times that he would take us on like 11s and 13s and 15-mile runs.
But they're necessary.
Yeah, whatever. All right. We're going to get into this thing I'm going to call the Mad Minute, and I'm just going to hit him with some questions and see what he got. All right, who would want to fight, Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee?
Chuck Norris.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Bruce Lee's dead. Favorite superhero? I'm gonna just say Captain America.
All right. What was your first car ever?
First car ever was a 1990 Chevy Cavalier blue that Some of the paint had been sanded off. It looked horrible. It was disgusting, but it worked. It cost me $400.
All right. I mean, $400 is $400.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you did in public and you were glad that nobody was looking?
Oof. Nobody was looking. I don't know. I trip and fall a lot, so
I've seen that.
there's several instances in which people have seen me trip and fall, but there have probably been plenty of bad ones in which people have not seen me fall, which I'm thankful that they have not.
All right. If all jobs paid the same, what would you be doing?
Probably do be a pediatrician or continue my pursuit to try and become a social worker to work with poorly developed adolescents.
All right. If you could raise one person from the dead to walk on the modern world, who would it be and why?
It's tough. I think I'd probably have to say my either my grandpa Pumfrey or my grandpa Taylor, just for the sole purpose of my grandpa Taylor was super messed up and brain aneurysms and everything else for a majority of my life, so I didn't get the opportunity to really know who he was as a person because he had some bad disabilities and stuff that led to me not being able to know him very well. And then my grandpa Pumfrey was just so damn old, even when I was born, that he wasn't able to act. He wasn't able to interact with me much when I was a younger kid as well. So I think if I could bring them back and get to know them a little bit better on an individual basis, I think that'd be who it was.
If you could be president for one day, pass something in a law, and immediately it will go into effect, what would you do?
I think it'd be something with providing better opportunities for urban youth. I feel like oftentimes our urban youth are forgotten about, or urban youth, if they make mistakes, society is very quick to pass judgment and not provide them the same opportunities as a lot of other people. So it'd be about providing opportunities for urban youth.
If you were at an airport and an airline gave you a ticket to go anywhere in the world, where would you go? You can't go home. You can't pack bags. You just have to go.
Machu Picchu.
Why is that?
Machu Picchu is a place that's always interested me. I've always wanted to go, and just have not had the opportunity, nor have I set aside the time to go there for a vacation yet at this point in my life.
If you could call yourself 5 years in the future and ask one question, what would you ask yourself?
Do teenage girls ever lose attitude? I think that would be my
I hope you're ready for that. I hope you're ready for that because you got two girls growing up. All right. If you were a sergeant major of the Army, what regulation would you change or add? Well, we all know sergeant majors don't really change regulations, but they have big influence. So
right.
What would you do?
Absolutely provide a ton of influence as the senior enlisted advisors. I feel like I would make a lot of the regulation, or want the regulations to be a lot more defined, because I feel like a lot of the regulations state at the commander's discretion.
Yes.
And
like the Tambini.
Right. And I think that's unfair to the soldier. I think it needs to be black and white, and something that's constantly caused me heartache and ass pain throughout the years was, having longer hair and having sideburns, Yeah. And so, is Sergeant Major this or Sergeant Major that? Is, hey, your hair is too long. Well, by the regulation, it states, this, and this. Well, it's at the commander's discretion. Well, yes, you are right. However, my commander hasn't said anything yet. So I don't think I would change anything. I'd just make it more well-defined.
Okay. What we got into, what do you think about the Tambini? You got a lot of controversy came out when they first came out with the regulation on you should wear it or not, and then a lot of people before that didn't want to wear it because, I don't know, for some reason. And now, like, we have a unit in Alaska that the unit commander said no Tambinis at all.
Yeah, and then that's one of those things where it's crazy because they state at the commander's discretion, right? So, they preach in the Army, or we preach in the Army, that we want everybody to look the same. However, it's very difficult to do when it's at the commander's discretion. So I think absolutely the Coyote Brown beanie is awesome. It looks great with the OCPs, and I'm all for it, but it needs to be defined. Hey, you will wear the Coyote Brown beanie, or you will wear the black beanie. And I think, potentially that commander in Alaska is doing the right thing, because he's ensuring that all his troopers are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, like wear the tan beanie out in field operations,
right.
And wear the black beanie for garrison and PT and etc.
And that's the thing, black is not a part of our the colored pattern within our OCPs, and it's that way for a reason, because there's not a lot of blacks out in amongst the foliage and stuff. So it makes sense, and something like that would absolutely make sense.
Okay. All right. What's the best piece of advice you could give somebody?
Be yourself. Be true to yourself. My belief is, and I think you and I have talked about this previously too, but the moment in which you are no longer true to yourself, you start to lose your own identity, right? Absolutely. Once you lose your own identity, then that's typically when bad things start to happen, because you're not staying straight to your morals, your ethics, in the way in which you were brought up as a child. So I think staying true to oneself is probably just the best piece of advice that I could give.
Okay. Are you into movies and TV shows or no?
I am, to an extent, yeah.
All right. If you could play any character in a movie or TV show, who would you play?
Right now my wife and I are watching the season 2 of Jack Ryan. I think he lives a pretty good life, being an analyst for the CIA. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then the movie, I mean, anything that is fast paced, I think that'd be enjoyable.
You wouldn't want to play Pablo Escobar in Narcos?
No, I don't think I would fit the bill, and I'm so far gone from, lingo and what is what. If you ask me about certain drugs, I would have no clue, and I know they have coaches and people that teach and talk about all this stuff, but I'm so lost that it would not be fair to the people that want to watch the show for me to even pretend like I know what the hell it is.
All right. Obviously, you're at 17 years in the Army. You're obviously not going to get out. Are you planning to stay in after 20, or are you going to get out at 20? And if you are getting out, what would you do?
I think the Army's going to make that decision for me. I do believe at some point I will be selected for Sergeant Major, and I'll go to the academy and then wait my time to fill a position. So I think ultimately the Army will make that decision for me. My plan for the longest time is always to do probably no less than 26 years and hopefully be no less than a brigade level command sergeant major. I feel that at that level, that's about the time in which you start losing touch with other senior NCOs, and I think that's the last time in which I could actually make a big impact on senior NCOs. And then after that, I think a lot of, not all, but I think there's a lot of sergeants majors out there that start to lose touch with reality and what's actually going on within the Army. So that's kind of my time frame right now for the Army. My wish and my desire upon retirement is I really want to have my master's in social work complete, either prior to retirement or pretty close upon retirement. I already have a bachelor's in education, like I said, and my goal is to become a social worker within a school district in an urban environment, and work predominantly with high school students.
If it wasn't for the Journal of the Army, what would you be doing?
Man, I used to look back and wonder what I'd be doing right now. Honestly, I'm not sure I would have made it through college. Had I ran straight through college instead of joining the Army.
Like you ran through everything.
Yeah, I did not make the best decisions prior to joining the Army, and I like to think I was a great person, but still was making poor decisions in life. But I think I still would have pursued something or to work with kids. I've always enjoyed working with kids and trying to help out kids. So I think something along those lines. Before I joined the Army, I was working at a daycare, and it was a subsidized housing area with low income families that I was working with prior to joining the Army. So that's kind of always been my inspiration.
What is a message or a story that you can tell to our listeners to help them face whatever they have going on right now and whatever difficulty that they're going through to accomplish one of their objectives or one of their goals? It can either be like a message or a story.
So I will say, and you've talked about this, and I talk about this a lot, but really you just have to be the best version of yourself every day, right? You can compare yourself to others, and you can say, hey, he or she is better than I am, or I am better than he or she. But at the end of the day, it's about you and what you're doing. And then with that, what is that providing for you? What is that providing for your family? What is that providing for those around you? So by me putting in the extra miles or the extra time for my physical fitness, what is that doing for me, and what is that doing for my family, and what is that doing for my soldiers? So I talk about physical fitness being a part of my life, and really the importance is it's not about me passing the APFT, because that's certainly not an issue, and it's not about me being able to pass the ACFT, because that's not going to be an issue either. But really what it comes down to for me is first and foremost is life longevity. Right. I want to be able to celebrate 50-year anniversary with my wife. I want to watch my daughters graduate from high school. I want to watch them graduate from college if they choose to go to college. I want them to have kids, and I want to be a grandfather. I want to be there for all those years. I want to be able to play with my kids and my grandkids. And then additionally, other than life longevity, what does it do for me? What does it do for the soldiers? I think it provides some inspiration, especially for younger soldiers that may be struggling a little bit in their physical fitness, and they see, one of the old men out there and still getting after it every day and performing at the same level, if not higher than them. I think it provides some inspiration, and it pushes them to want to be better. But ultimately, I try to tie it into the life longevity piece as much as possible, because at the end of the day, whether I do 20 years, whether I do 30 years of service, I'm only looking at being 40, 50 years old. And I'm still young enough to spend several more years with my wife and my kids. And that is of the utmost importance to me.
Absolutely. And a lot of people mistake that with, a good example is you're with your platoon doing sprints at the track, and you're not the fastest guy, but you start sandbagging, but you act like you're trying your hardest, and that's not really what being the best version of yourself is. Like, if you keep trying to be the best version of yourself every day, one day you'll be the fastest in your platoon. One day you'll get to where you want to be. It's not just be the best version of yourself or act like you're being the best version of yourself and truly not be that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's fine if you're not always number one, and it's fine if you're not always number two, but as long as inside, and it goes back to just staying true to yourself. As long as you know that you're pushing yourself hard and you're constantly trying to make yourself better, then that's what you got to do. It's when I go and do the sprints with you guys on the track, right?
I beat him.
Maybe the first time, but after that he starts sandbagging like he's talking about.
Whatever.
So, I may not be number one every time, but if we're doing 10 sprints, I will be number one. Probably close to half of those. Mm-hmm. And if not, I will be in the top 3 every single damn time. You know what I'm saying? So like, I may not be the best, but overall I'm going to be up there, and I'm going to push myself every single day.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's it for the minute that actually took like 15 to 16 minutes, right?
We're figuring it out. We'll get it straight.
Yeah, right. So me and First Sergeant, we're on leave right now, right? And I just got back from Amsterdam yesterday, and no, I did not use no weed while I was in Amsterdam, right?
That's good.
And I was in Dublin before that. He was in Dublin. You want to talk about how was your little your trip with your family over in Dublin?
Dublin and Ireland was awesome. So we did a little bit different. We started in Dublin, and we traveled and toured around Dublin for a day, and The following day, we drove up to Belfast and went to the Titanic Museum and went to a Christmas market in Belfast, because what spouse does not love a good Christmas market?
Absolutely.
And then we drove out to the west side of Ireland and hit the Cliffs of Moher, which one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. It was amazing. And the following day, we drove down to Blarney Castle and kissed the Blarney Stone, which supposedly will give you the gift of gab if you go and kiss the Blarney Stone. So I'll be good. And then we drove back to Dublin, spent another day in Dublin. And Ireland's a beautiful country, great people, some of the nicest and most friendly people I've met in all of Europe.
They are very nice. Irish people are probably one of the nicest people I met in the entire world.
Absolutely, hands down, by far the nicest people I've met in Europe up to this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People in Spain are actually pretty nice too. When I went to Barcelona, last year, everybody was nice. I don't really speak Spanish, but I speak Portuguese, so everybody was pretty understandable on that. And a lot of them could help me out when I was like, I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm saying Portuguese and it's working.
Yeah, we did Barcelona last year as well. Barcelona's probably my favorite city in all of Europe.
Definitely. I'm more of a beach guy, and Barcelona definitely. There was a time I was going for a little jog in Barcelona, and I'm jogging by the beach, and I start seeing a whole bunch of naked people, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, it's common. Like, you'd be on the beach and just a random lady would just take off her top and just sunbathe. But I actually ended up into a what is known to be a gay nude beach, right? There's nothing wrong with being gay and being nude, but I was just on the wrong side of town going for a run, and so I turned around very quick and I went back. But it's pretty interesting. If you haven't checked out Barcelona, you should definitely go check out Barcelona.
I also recommend Barcelona. Barcelona's a great time.
You visit anywhere else during leave or just Ireland?
Just Ireland. Other than that, been going to the gym every day, running almost every day as well, and spending as much time with my daughters and my wife as possible. So it's been pretty low key and a
lot of family time, because we do not get a lot of family time over here.
Right. Very true. Yeah, making up for lost time.
So this man runs. He already talks about how he runs a lot, and I never once seen him stretch. So I think he got like shin splints built into his shins, and his knees are destroyed, and he just keeps going. They don't care. So why don't you tell us, like, why don't you stretch?
So for me, it's I don't know, a mix of I will say laziness combined with just wanting to get after it, right? Stretching cuts into time that you could be on the road.
Yeah.
Right. However, if you are stretching properly and doing it correctly, it limits and reduces the chance for injury. However, I haven't had too many crazy injuries, thankfully. But I that's what it is. It's a mix of just being lazy and to just wanting to get after it and hit the road as quickly as possible. However, when I do PT with like large elements, I will stretch with the elements to make sure that I'm included and doing everything properly in front of everybody. It's definitely not my favorite thing to do.
And his wife is a yoga instructor, and he's missing out. I would definitely be taking advantage of that if my wife was a yoga instructor. Certainly
missed opportunities, right? But that's the thing. Like you've met Stephanie and you've talked to her several times. Great lady. However, when she comes with her yoga, for me, it's she's ready to jack me up. How many times can I make him go chair pose, which is like a seated squat position, and just hold it? She's about breaking me off and not about making sure that I'm stretched out and maintaining some mobility and flexibility. She's just about breaking me off.
All right. Yeah, Stephanie is awesome. So we're gonna get into our interview portion of the podcast in a little bit. What do you think is like the best thing about being you were a first sergeant in Bulldog, and now you're HHT first sergeant. What do you think is like the best part of being a first sergeant?
Oh man,
I know that being a first sergeant Bulldog is better than HHT.
Hey, they both have their pluses and minuses, man. And when you're a maneuver first sergeant, a lot of the personalities are very similar, right? Yeah. And mirror somewhat of how I am and how I act. whereas HHT is completely different, right? Not as many muscle draggers or knuckle draggers and muscle heads, right? But there's a wide variety of personalities, and being able to work with all the different personalities is great. It's super interesting. It's fun. But I think the best part about being a first sergeant is definitely being provided the opportunity and flexibility just to maneuver and really talk to whoever you want to in the troop, right? As a squad leader, you typically stick to your squad and talk to your squad mates. As a platoon sergeant, it's predominantly the dudes in your platoon. Well, as a first sergeant and in Bulldog, we had anywhere from 70 to 112 people in the troop at any time. And now in HHT, I have almost 170 bubbas. So like, I can go out there and talk to anybody I want. Yeah. And that is by far the greatest thing, is that the level of engagement in which I have with subordinate leaders is phenomenal, and it's absolutely fun. The worst part is a crap ton of administrative paperwork, and I am not a fan of that, nor probably most first sergeants.
I'm digging that sweet airborne hat you have. That I've been wanting to snag it off you since for the longest.
So it's for the 325, right? So 2nd Brigade, 82nd, and nowhere on the hat does it say that. It has the crest in the back, and other than that, it's just the parachute with the glider, right? So it's for the gliders and the World War II heritage.
Yeah. So people that you can see, it's just I think it was supposed to be a black hat, but he wore it so much it's very faded and turning brown. But it's just a black ball cap with the old logo that they used to wear on the headgear for the paratroopers in World War II. And
actually, a good buddy of mine, his name's Joe Brumfeld. He is an ACRC dude now, down in Mississippi, but he got this as a retention gift, and he did not want it when he reenlisted.
I want it.
So he gave it to me. I will never part with this thing. I wear this almost every single day.
Yeah, you do. The hat's about to start walking by itself. That's how much it is. Yeah. All right, so you already talked a little about yourself. You briefly talked about your career, but let's get a bit into detail. Like, why did you join the Army? Like, what did you come in as? What would you do? Like, and stuff like that. Did you ever like go try to do something else besides being a 19 series?
So, I joined the Army in 2002. I was a senior in high school when September 11th happened. I wrestled. I was decent at wrestling in school. Came from Iowa, so it's a pretty big wrestling state. I was decent. It wasn't great. A couple of small schools potentially I could have went and wrestled at. September 11th happened, and that was a huge driving factor for me in my desire to serve. My dad retired out of the Army. My older brother was currently serving and had already been to Kuwait. It's just a rotational unit with 3rd ID.
He's a leg.
He is a leg, absolutely hands down a leg. However, my father was not. He served in the 82nd and 101st in the 60s. So I think some of the family heritage was a push, but ultimately it was September 11th, right? So when that had happened, it changed my course drastically and what I was planning on doing, which was attempting to go and wrestle in college. I originally enlisted as a 19 kilo as a M1 armor crewman.
So you were fat.
I was not fat. I was a tanker. A DAT, a dumbass tanker, as people would say. But
everybody makes fun of the tankers until you need them, and they just come and destroy everything, and you're like, thank God they're here.
My brother, like I said, my older brother, he was in, and he served on the invasion into Iraq. Prior to the invasion, he made fun of me a lot. He was a 14 Romeo, a Bradley linebacker, which is air defense artillery, and no longer exists. But he would make fun of me all the time for being a DAT, right? When he came back from the invasion, he said, "I will never make fun of you again for being a tanker, because those dudes saved my ass so many times during the invasion that they're absolutely amazing. They're absolutely great."
That's probably the time that they used the most, to be honest, ever since like a big war like World War I, World War II.
Absolutely.
Happened. And I think 9/11 was probably that era is probably where they recruited the most. Army, Navy, Marines, not the Coast Guard, but the Air Force. That's probably the time that most people enlisted. Everybody just want to make a big difference. I mean, if I was a 4-year-old, I probably would have enlisted too.
Yeah. So, I enlisted as a kilo. I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, and with First ID 234 Armor Battalion. I went to SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection, as a young specialist.
Did you go as a tanker or?
I did. I went as a tanker.
How did that go?
It was okay. I was road killed twice in the same night. So, being a road kill is essentially cheating on the star course.
Yeah, those that don't know, being a roadkill is so you're not allowed to use the roads on the land nav, and being a roadkill is when you're caught using the roads.
I was trying to run as fast as I could, and unfortunately wasn't fast enough, and I got caught twice in the same night. So I was pushed out of selection, and could have returned, but when I came back, I started looking at some things quite a bit, and actually at the time, instead of SFL TAP, we had ACAP, right, which was the transition to get out of the Army. So I actually went through ACAP and had completed ACAP in 2004, and my plan was to get out of the Army. However, I was stop lost, and I went to Iraq with 234 Armor Battalion, and it was during that deployment in which I made some big life changes, and that's when I chose to re-enlist for the first time. I also switched my MOS, right? So I went from a 19 kilo to a 19 delta, and also chose to go to airborne school as part of my contract as well, which was a good decision. I actually went to airborne school as a 19 kilo before I switched. So I was an airborne tanker. Yeah.
That does not happen
for about 8 weeks. I was an airborne tanker.
Wow.
And then after that, after I reclassed and went to airborne school, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 1st Brigade, 373 Cav, and I actually got there before they reactivated, because originally it was 373 Armor. So I got there in July of 2006, and they reactivated in July, August of 2006.
Okay. And after that, what'd you do after you were in the 82nd? So
I went through a little over 14-month deployment with 1st Brigade 82nd, and when we came back, I went to become a recruiter. I was a recruiter in Joplin, Missouri. Honestly, one of the biggest letdowns of my life was being a recruiter. I thought that I was getting something completely different out of being a recruiter. I thought that I was going to have a lot more time with the family, and found out that it's actually almost less time with the family, only no field problems. Recruiting was not enjoyable. When I was in Joplin, Missouri, though, they had a huge F5 tornado that killed about, I think it was 160 some people. And it was like the 7th most deadly tornado of all time in the history of the United States. So I got to do a lot of recovery type missions with the local populace, and search and rescue, and police, and fire department, and that was a great experience from a tragic event. I learned a lot during those couple weeks. After that, and I had my hopes on not jumping out of planes anymore. So I was trying to go to 101st or 25th ID, either Fort Campbell or Hawaii branch. They're like, yep, we have slots available at both those places for you, man. We're going to hook you up. I got the famous email that said, hey, you're on assignment orders. So I called branch, and I'm like, hey, man, where am I going, 101st or 25th? What's up? They're like, no, man, we hooked you up. You're going back to the 82nd. Like, what are you doing, man? So I ended up going to 2nd Brigade, 173 Cav, which was a phenomenal opportunity to go back to Fort Bragg. That's when I became a jet master.
What rank were you at that time?
That time I was a staff sergeant promotable, sergeant first class, okay. Right? So I finished my section time at Fort Bragg the first time, and then when I went back to Fort Bragg, I showed up as a staff sergeant promotable and was promoted to sergeant first class a little bit later that year. Went straight into a platoon, led a platoon for 30 months. And it was a phenomenal opportunity. Some of the greatest leaders I'd ever worked with that actually inspired me quite a bit were in 173 Cav, and that's Command Sergeant Major Ayala and Lieutenant Colonel Eric Boss, who's now a colonel. He's the G357 of the 18th Airborne Corps, or at least he was. He may not be there right now. And he was the deputy commander for the 173rd after he finished his time as our squadron commander. But they inspired me a lot and made me look at some things in leadership quite differently. So then after that, I was provided the opportunity to go be an ROTC instructor at Arizona State University.
So if you guys have, if any military members are listening and have or had any brand new lieutenants that came from Arizona State and they suck.
You got me to think for it, yeah. Depending on when they were there, yeah.
Thank this man.
But most of them were pretty good. We had a good population. It's one of the larger programs in the nation. Obviously, the location is desirable, right? It very rarely drops below 50, 60 degrees.
Oh, that's great.
It was phenomenal.
I wish I had that here.
It was the best assignment I've had thus far in the Army. It was great.
You did gain some weight, though.
No, not there. In recruiting, I did.
Yeah,
In recruiting, I gained some weight. And that's when I realized I had to start making fitness a priority of mine, or I'd die from a heart attack at like 40 years old. But Arizona State was great. That's where I got my degree from. I was provided the opportunity to go to school while I was there and pursue some personal goals as well, and a lot of family time. So any sergeant's first class that are a 19 series, 11 series, 13 series, or 18 series, I definitely recommend that if you're provided the opportunity to go ROTC to take that opportunity. It's great for not only career development but personal development as well. I think it's great, and it allows you to start looking forward to set you up for once you get out of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do when you retire? And then thankfully I had a good buddy who's the branch manager, Corey Truax, and when I was talking to him trying to look for assignments, that's when I was pegged to go to 173rd and go to 191 here in Germany. And exceptional unit, by far the best cavalry squadron that I've ever been a part of. The leaders, the caliber of leaders that I've served amongst here are the best, hands down, from private to the squadron commanders that we've had since I've been here. Absolutely phenomenal. The best, hands down, leaders I've ever had the opportunity to serve with.
Absolutely. The one-on-one is different. I mean, you hear a lot of people talking crap about us, but we all talk crap about the unit sometimes, but nobody is allowed to talk crap about our unit because only we know how it is. It's a great unit. If you're coming here to one-on-one and you think that you're gonna have the time of your life, that you're gonna have a lot of free time, you're gonna be traveling Europe all the time, I would recommend you change that mindset. It's a very high-paced unit. You train a lot. It's not bad training, but you train a lot. And I having been here as my first unit, my first assignment is, I think it's definitely going to put me ahead of a lot of people when I go to my next unit.
I agree, but so the other thing too, I think you got to think about is there's opportunities to travel and see Europe, but you have to make the most of those opportunities, right? You can choose to sit in your barracks room or at your house and not do anything over a 4-day weekend, or you can take a quick flight to London or wherever, right?
And it's cheap. I paid 29 euros for my flight to London.
Yeah,
leaving the next morning.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It makes it's great.
It's awesome.
But the other, like you said, the training here, dudes train so much harder here in the 173rd and definitely within 191 than I've ever seen. And the knowledge and the skill set across the junior enlisted population is better here than anywhere I've ever seen. I have no doubt that when soldiers leave here in 191 and transition to other units and definitely other airborne units, they will walk into positions of more responsibility and more leadership potential due to the experience here in 191. And the geographical separation is partially to be thanked for that, but ultimately it's just the go-get-'em attitude that everybody has. It's phenomenal.
Absolutely. Across the board, you have people knowing how to do their 2 steps up. Like if you're a private, you will know how to. You absolutely know how to do your team leader's job. If you're a section leader, you will know how to do your platoon sergeant job. It's like that across the board. It's being an airborne is a very small world, right? I think it's the second time you were at the 82nd. That's where you met Sergeant Knapp.
Yeah,
Study Sergeant First Class Knapp.
He did. He was one of my section leaders when I was a platoon sergeant. I had 5 or 6 different section leaders in 30 months as a platoon sergeant. Dude's just
good or bad.
It's a little bit of both. Guys leaving for schools, guys being provided different opportunities, guys being moved, just for a change of pace. But he was hands down the best section leader in which I had the entire time.
You're gonna have one of your old section leaders call you. What the fuck? What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, but they're good. Like I said, I've had several, but as far as knowledge set, care, presence, physical fitness ability, and just overall potential to do great things within the Army, he's the best one I had.
And for those of you who do not know Sergeant Knapp, he's a very easy to find person. The dude is pale white, very bright red hair, and today
more orange.
Yeah,
more orange.
Something like that. He and it's just such a small world that they were together in Bragg, and now he is a platoon sergeant in Alpha Troop here in 191. And also he wasn't my drill, but he came over one time in basic and jacked my platoon up for having orange peels in our lockers.
Yeah. I mean, you deserved it. Why would you have orange peels in your locker?
I mean, it wasn't me, but the dude ended up having to eat a whole 3 oranges without peeling in a frontline arrest.
I don't believe it.
It was hilarious.
I don't believe that.
It was hilarious. It was, and you can talk to him. He remembers it too. It's great. All right. So, you're a senior rated jump master. Why did you want to be a jump master, and what do you think is like the best part of it? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be a jump master. Oh, it sucks. I'm like,
so originally the reason in which I went to jump master school, it was like a probably a Wednesday or a Thursday. And my sergeant major came and talked to me, and this command sergeant major, Richard Ayala, retired. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, Pumfrey, you're going to jump master school next week." I of course I had my white slip, right? But he said, "You're going to jump master school." I said, "Well, I'm not sure that I'm ready, sergeant major." And he said, "Well, do you enjoy being a platoon sergeant?" I said, "I love being a platoon sergeant." He said, "Okay, then come back as a jump master or come back as not a platoon sergeant. Those are your options." So
he said, "You're going or you're going."
I ultimately, I'm certain I would have kept my platoon either way, but he gave me that extra push that I needed to ensure that I was doing the right thing while I was in jump master school, and I definitely graduated first time through. Best part about being a jump master, I think, is a couple of things. One, it provides more opportunity to engage with soldiers and leaders across a formation, right? Because, you may end up JMPIing and talking to a soldier that you've never met before, and that one engagement may be something that leads that soldier to wanting to do things much better or change their life, But I think really the greatest thing is when you're doing a clear to the rear as jump master, leaning out of the aircraft, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It's an experience that not everybody gets, and it feels amazing.
Absolutely, and it's also like the only way to make sure that the person that you're JMPIing is ready and it's good to go, right? Do you want to talk to us about how'd you get your Bronze Star and what happened that day and all that stuff?
So I did from a deployment in Iraq. I think it's one of those things that I'm not sure if I was deserving or should have gotten it or not. That's obviously a decision above me, and they made the decision that it be maintained as a Bronze Star. And this was when I was a staff sergeant. But essentially, I think it boils down to the work that I put in, throughout a deployment. I led a couple of troop scale movements on a couple of different raids that led to the successful capture of a couple IED makers and stuff. But I don't think it's anything that I did necessarily. I think it was just the collective effort of the team, and then the leaders above me believing that was the award in which I deserved. My wife, she hates any time that somebody talks about me having a Bronze Star, because when I was awarded the Bronze Star, when they pinned it on my chest, I took it off and gave it to one of my soldiers and thanked him for being my driver for the past 14 month. However,
that doesn't mean that
he wasn't awarded it. I just gave it to him because I thought he had done a phenomenal job, and ultimately as a driver in Iraq during that time frame with the IEDs and EFPs and everything, he did a phenomenal. Yeah, and we were
driving home. Was great.
We were the lead scout truck, so. Yeah, he did a phenomenal job, but he was a dirtbag. He was a horrible soldier. He was a horrible soldier before we left to Iraq. He was a horrible soldier after we came back from Iraq. But he did phenomenal while we were deployed, and he ended up being chaptered out of the Army. Like I said, he was a horrible.
We're not
he was a horrible soldier. But so I gave him the medal, and I told my wife that, and she was pissed. She did not care about the soldier. He took a lot of time away from the family for some special attention.
For those that don't know, the Bronze Star Medal is awarded to service members that done some heroic or meritorious services overseas. And like Max said, he did some pretty cool stuff that led to the capture of some pretty important HVTs. And it's pretty cool that someone took the time to actually recognize you and give you that award, because I really don't think that our service members are recognized enough for the stuff that they do. What is one of the significant moment in your career that made you be the leader that you are today?
So, I've had a lot of phenomenal soldiers work underneath me, or work with me rather, over the past 17 years, and I've been an NCO for the past 14 years of service. One of those soldiers, he's out and he's doing great things as a civilian now. But Alex Kaliniak, very, very strong soldier, very good soldier, but also very hard-headed, right? So back in the day, as a young sergeant, everybody talked about being a bulldog and being in the face of your soldiers, and with that came yelling and corrective training, this, that, and the other. And
it's crazy how a lot of people think that is a good leader. I mean, you're hard, but I mean
it's not.
Yeah,
it's not effective.
Yeah, it's like saying you're a great leader just because you went to Ranger School.
Yeah, right. And
you're a great leader if you go to Jump Master School.
So he taught me more about that than any leader that I'd ever had previous to or after the fact. I would dig at him for the same thing over and over and over again, and he would never change or fix the deficiency in which he had. And then one day I took the time to sit with him and just talk to him about it. And that one conversation of just taking the time to sit with the soldier and identify the problem and what was going on and how to combat the problem and come to a solution together taught me so much. And that is ultimately, I think, led me the most to who I am as a leader today, was the interaction which I had with Alex Kaliniak. Like I said, he went on to do great things.
If he's still in?
No, so he's out. So he owns a CrossFit gym in Dallas, Texas. It's called D-Town CrossFit.
That's why you like him.
There's the plug, right? But I mean, he's doing phenomenal. He's a crazy intelligent guy. He stayed in the Army until he was a staff sergeant.
He's a veteran.
Ranger tabbed, jump master qualified, sniper qualified. So he went and did tremendous things, and he wasn't feeling the Army anymore, so he went to do some other things and has been super successful, even on the civilian side. And it's of no surprise. He's a great individual, and like I said, even when he was a private and I was a young sergeant and young staff sergeant, he taught me a crap ton about what leadership really was, and that I think changed me in a positive direction going forward.
And not everybody is meant to be in the military. Not everybody that comes in, graduates basic training, graduates airborne school, and gets their unit, they're actually meant to be there. And we see that a lot where a soldier won't be able to pass PT test. A soldier is not performing well. A soldier is messing up constantly. And in the civilian world, when you're doing that stuff, when you're breaking the rules, when you can't keep up, when you're not maintaining your performance standard, most likely you're gonna get fired. And I think as a military, as an organization, we should be able to do that better. I think we hold on to people that shouldn't be here for like 6, 7, 8 months, sometimes even more than a year, and that person is taking up a spot of someone that deserves to be here, someone that actually wants to be there, right? And I think as an organization, we need to improve on that. Like, we need to do a lot better job on that situation.
Right. It's really what it comes down to is failed systems, I think, right? So, if you think about the times personally when you have been smoked by a leader jacked you up for corrective training, right? Which is it's never the right answer in my opinion. But like, what did it correct? What did it fix? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't fix anything, right? But the times in which a leader is taking the time to sit with you and actually explain things to you, like, now you are being developed, and now you do have an understanding of what you need to do to improve, right? And so I think almost anything can be fixed with just open-ended and candid conversation between people, right? And it's not about me being a leader and that person being a subordinate. It's not about that. It's about being a leader of presence, being a leader of care, right? And being selfless and taking care of those that need care, right? Yeah. And provide an opportunity, So I think conversation and just taking the time to get to know your soldiers is of the utmost importance. And that's a failed system. There's a lot of people that don't take the time to get to know their soldiers. As a first sergeant of 170 people right now, I know.
Imagine if you had to do corrective training with every single person that messed up over.
Right. But I know all of their names, right? Yeah. And I don't know all of them on a personal basis, but my intent is to know all of them on a personal basis, so that if somebody does seem off or somebody does look like they're stagnant, I can provide some guidance, right?
Absolutely.
And so and with the other thing is, there are systems in place in which people can have people removed from the Army and be provided the opportunity to have a successful life outside of the Army, but they're not doing it, right? Because it takes time, it takes paperwork, and it takes being studious and looking into regulations and publications and this, that, and the other, and people aren't doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's not a hard process if you just take the time or you ask the right questions. Yeah. So the Army has people in places and positions in which if you just ask them the right questions, they can provide you with the understanding, or at least point you in the direction of the right regulation or publication to assist in that. So it's just people not wanting to do the work in failed systems, I think.
Do you have any leaders that you look up to, one time when things are going hard, or damn, I think this person would do this, let me talk to this person, or you have someone like that? Yeah,
so several throughout time. I think when it comes to leadership and life lessons and lessons learned, the two people I call on the most are typically my older brother, who was in the Army, like it said, and fought in the invasion of Iraq, and now works for Gulfstream down in Savannah. And then the other is my dad, who, like I said, was in the 82nd, was in the 101st. He fought with the 82nd in the Dominican Republic. He fought with the 101st in Vietnam. Had a lapse in service, and then went green to gold and commissioned and retired as a major in the reserves. So I talk to them a lot about leadership and life experiences and lessons learned from things that they've had. And they bring a different dynamic when it comes to leadership, because they're both so far gone from the military now is they can keep me in touch with reality and what's actually happening in society right now, which helps. But I think there's really only been a couple of sergeants majors or first sergeants or platoon sergeants that I've had over time that actually have made a difference. But really, I think the ones that I've really looked up to are far outweighed by those that I've never wanted to be anything like, which is sad. But I still have a lot of lessons learned from those that I did not think were great for the development of the organization.
So you have been in the Army for quite a while, and you've been a non-commissioned officer a while. So when did you first get promoted to sergeant?
So I was promoted to sergeant in February of 2006.
That's about 13 years as a
Yeah.
NCO. And when did you become a sergeant first class?
So let's see. I was promoted to sergeant in 06, staff sergeant in March of 07, sergeant first class November of 2012. Spent a long time as a staff sergeant, and then I was promoted to. I was frocked in January of 18. And penned January or March 18.
Okay, so that's 13 years as a non-commissioned officer. That's 7 years as a senior non-commissioned officer, right? So it's a lot of time on your belt. But what do you expect from the leaders below you, like the team leaders, the squad leaders, the platoon sergeants? And I don't know if there is a perfect leader, but what would you think would be a leader that's like as close to perfect as possible?
I think what makes
if you say Ranger School, you're gonna get kicked out of my podcast.
If that's all we have to do to end the show, then hey, no, I'm enjoying this. I think really what it boils down to is, I know some people hate the terminology engaged leaders or whatever, but I think just a leader of care, right? And putting yourself out there. I think a leader that takes the time to get to know their soldiers, takes the time to train their soldiers, and takes the time to improve upon the development of those soldiers. So whether that be their personal life or their professional life, being a leader takes time. But at the end of the day, it's all worthwhile, right? So I think one of my favorite stories I like to talk about. So we talked about, Sergeant First Class Cody Knapp, when he was a section leader of mine. When he first came to the platoon, his wife was pregnant. And she ended up having the baby while he was in the platoon. And shortly after Jack was born, Cody, he's working with the dudes down in the bay, and they were getting stuff ready to go to the field. And we still had a couple of days before we went to the field. He wasn't spending any time at home. It was always at work. And I asked him, I said, what are you doing? Why haven't you went home to have dinner with your wife and your newborn son? Well, I gotta make sure this is straight. I gotta make sure this is straight. I gotta take care of the soldiers, this, that, and the other. And I said, that's cool. I said, so what are your team leaders doing? Well, I'm watching them do this. I'm watching them do this, and I'm having them do this, that, and the other. So do you not think your team leaders are capable? No, well, I do. And at that time, though, they were some of the best team leaders I'd ever seen. They were phenomenal. They were absolutely great, and carried the weight of the platoon. Those team leaders did. He's like, no, I do. I said, all right, then you need to go home and have dinner with your wife and your newborn son tonight.
But back at that time, it was when you had was it 10 days of
leave?
It was
10 or 14, something like that. Yeah.
Today is 21. It's
21.
It's a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like I should get my days back. Right? But so he kept fighting me about it, and I said, well, obviously you either don't trust your subordinate leaders and don't think that they're going to do the right thing, or you don't want to spend time with your family, which is definitely the wrong answer in my eyes. So what I did is with him next to me, I called his wife and I said, hey, Maggie, I said, it's Max. I said, Cody's about ready to come home. He's going to have dinner with you and Jack tonight. So make sure you have good dinner prepared. And she's just laughing. She's like, okay. I'm like, no, seriously.
Were you guys in garrison? Or were you guys out?
Yeah, we were in garrison,
Okay.
getting ready to go to the field in the next couple of days. And he was pissed, but I walked him to his car. I watched him get in his car. I got in my car and I followed him to his house to make sure, and watched him go inside and made sure he had dinner with his family. And I went back to work to make sure the dudes were doing good and everything. So I guess I was somewhat hypocritical. But I think that's what it's about, right? And ensuring that soldiers are not only taking care of themselves professionally, but personally, right?
Absolutely.
Especially the soldiers that are married in the Army, you got to ensure that their family is being provided the same level of support as the soldiers are. And a lot of times as leaders, we forget that, and we focus on the soldiers and we lose sight of our other family, right? Our spouse and Absolutely. Our children. So, anytime that a leader takes the time to notice that a soldier has not been spending much time at home and forces them home to go spend some time with them, whether it's a dinner and then they have to return to work, or, a lunch break in which they can go home, or whatever it is. But you gotta ensure that's being met. And then, one of my pet peeves is walking around like the troop footprint, and there's soldiers just sitting around and, around the lockers or wherever and playing on their cell phones. I absolutely hate it. That's a missed opportunity for team leaders to be out there training. And I have a counseling in which I counsel all the NCOs in the troop. I did it in Bulldog and I did it in HHT. But even in the counseling, it says there should be 1 to 3 classes conducted every single day. And it doesn't have to be a tactical
it doesn't
class,
need to be like
right?
a class in how to do
right.
Bravo and Alpha every single time. Like,
It can be a finance class. It can be a class on AR 670-1 and how the female hair guidance, right? It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but there should be some sort of professional growth training being conducted every day. And it's those opportunities in which soldiers are just sitting around and their time is being wasted, because time is valuable,
Absolutely.
and it's that time, and soldiers could be with their family, or soldiers could be, at the barracks, spending time together, playing cards or playing video games or going traveling or whatever. You're wasting a soldier's time if they're just sitting there. That's asinine, and it should not happen. So that's my biggest pet peeve. And so, really the ideal team leader is somebody that takes the time to train. They take the time to care. They take time to get to know the soldier, and they take the time to get the soldiers, or take the time to get to know the soldier's family, if they're married as well.
Absolutely. So this reminds me of an episode of a podcast that I watched off the Military Leader podcast with retired Command Sergeant Major Schroeder. He used to be I think his old position was the Sergeant Major for TRADOC, right? And I know you've listened to it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people listen to it, and I want to see what's your intake on his 3 attributes that he would give to Sergeant, which is inspect, train, and lead by personal example. And what do you think about that?
Your troop commander, and my old troop commander when I was a Bulldog, First Sergeant Captain Williams.
He showed you that?
So yeah,
he showed me that one too.
He and I talked about that, and actually, I mean, this was probably in May. I gave a class on leadership to all the NCOs and some of the other specialists in the troop, and within that, the leadership training, it was about 2 or 3 hours long, right? And it was intended to be about an hour. There was not a single bit of Army doctrine or Army verbiage in there, minus the Army's definition of leadership. Absolutely. Right? And other than that, it was all Q&A, right? So in NCOs providing examples and experience to other NCOs, mm-hmm. for us to grow and learn. And I was learning a crap ton about the dudes out there, and seeing some different examples of how the things that they've done and they've learned from. But I did encompass Sergeant Major Retired Schroeder's ideas on the 3 words to identify each NCO rank from sergeant to command sergeant major. Mm-hmm. It's good.
Yeah. Captain Williams showed me that podcast. It was like a class that I gave to the entire troop. Mm-hmm. And that day I was told that I was going to be going to the next promotion board from specialist to sergeant. And he showed me that he showed me that podcast, and it was great. I learned a lot just from listening to it, and something I was going to take from me is a good sergeant is gonna inspect, train, and lead his soldiers by personal example. It's a great podcast.
Absolutely, I agree.
And it comes with a dude that has a lot of experience. Like, the dude has a lot of experience under his belt, right? What is the hardest decision that you made in your military career? Either being, let's say, like, what's your hardest decision you made in military career as a leader?
You know, I would say probably the most poor decision that I've made up to this point was probably about a year and a half ago. So it's fairly new. Is that there are some things that a senior leader said that I certainly didn't agree with, and it really upset me and struck a nerve, and I ended up bringing it up and talking about it, but it was a couple months after the incident, and so that shows I held on to it for a couple of months, so it carried some weight.
Sometimes you just gotta like take some time and relax and think about it, because if you just act right there, you're probably gonna do something that you didn't want to do.
Right.
It's gonna end up worse.
But I think I should have spoken up sooner, because ultimately it revolved around soldier care and time, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, time is valuable. Soldiers' times are valuable, and I feel like I should have spoken up sooner about it, and it really upset me, the things that were said, and it drove me nuts for a couple of months before I had said something.
Okay.
I think that's probably the most poor decision that I've made in a long time.
Okay, what about what's the hardest decision you made?
So, I mean, I won't go into details because it's been touchy for a lot of people within the organization in which I was a part of. But speaking up against another leader, mm-hmm. right? Because it was not the preferred message, and it wasn't what senior leaders wanted to hear. It wasn't something that they wanted to say or see. But for me, it's like I said, you got to stay true to yourself, and ultimately morals and ethics are a big part of who I am, and I like to think that I have pretty good morals and ethics. So there were things that I didn't like that were going on, and I spoke up about it, and it potentially could have cost a senior leader their job. And I chose to speak up, and ultimately I don't believe it was taken seriously, my comments or my feedback, but it was hard for me to come up because there could have been a lot of negative implications on a lot of people from the things that I'd brought up.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes to speak up to someone that's the same level you or above you, because sometimes a lot of people have a lot of pride in they don't accept being corrected or doing stuff that it's not the way that they like doing it, and it ends up messing up the entire organization, because it doesn't matter if you're a sergeant major that's been in the Army for 26 years or plus, or if you're a private that's been in the Army for 2 weeks. Everybody knows something better than the next person, and everybody should be able to help each other. Because if you're just that person that someone tries to help you, give you some constructive criticism, and you just tell that person to screw off or get out of your face because you've been in longer, or you have more experience than that person, you're just not betting yourself, and you're just creating a bad and unhealthy environment. And it's a learning experience. Everybody's constantly learning.
Yeah, and individuality is extremely important within the Army, I think, and because even though you are a specialist promotable, and I am a first sergeant, does not mean that you cannot provide positive insight. Exactly. And change, right? So you gotta create some individuality to inspire others to come up with those good ideas, right? To provide feedback, in order to develop, new systems or better systems to accomplish the mission, right?
Yep. What is your advice to junior leaders, like you said, a specialist promotable or a brand new sergeant, in order for them to become successful as a non-commissioned officer in the Army? Not just the Army, just being a successful leader in general.
Treat people like people.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's just like the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you'd have done to you,
mm-hmm.
right? It's just dumbed down quite a bit. And you treat people like people, right?
Yeah.
You treat me like a good person, I treat you like a good person, like all is well.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think there's a lot to be said in that, and in some of our conflict too. In the past, there was a big problem in deployed soldiers, doing stupid, childish things with the youth. Like throwing them bottles of urine, right, or whatever, and abusing prisoners, and that's not necessary, right? Mm-hmm. Like they are going to potentially do crime, or they're going to go through a process and be judged and potentially convicted for serious crimes, right?
And they have the people that are designated to
right.
like
my
questioning and stuff like that,
right? And my thought process too, in deployments with like the kids, like my dad, he would send me boxes and boxes of school supplies. Mm-hmm. And I loved giving school supplies out and candy and stuff out, because the way that I thought, in my thought process going through these deployments, and I know not everybody's good, but I like to think that there is good in everybody, was that, hey, by me providing these kids in this village a whole bunch of school supplies and candy and food, and here comes grandma and grandpa or mom and dad talking about how horrible the Americans are, and the Americans do this bad, they do this bad, they do this bad. Well, the counter argument is, well, the only Americans I've interacted with have provided me with supplies for school, and they've provided me with candy, and they've provided me with food. So it makes it hard for those older generations to pass, some potentially bad biases to the future of that government.
Absolutely.
So I think just treating people like people is the some of the best advice that you can give. And that was my motto and my big thing in Bulldog, and it's the same in HHT is, hey, treat people like people.
Absolutely.
Do the right thing.
And a lot of times we will get that a brand new soldier brand new private coming out straight out of airborne school and show up to the unit, and he's going to get a hard time. It's just going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast, and I can't speak for the civilian world, but because that never happened to me. But in the military, every time we get a new guy, he's going to get a hard time. Obviously, with boundaries, we're not gonna do anything illegal. We're not going to talk about his sexual preference or his religion or his family and stuff like that. But you're gonna give him a hard time, because you want to see what that guy is capable of. You want to see. You see, is this guy gonna protect me in combat? Is this guy gonna turn his back whenever we start getting shot at? Because it's a brand new guy showing up to a group of guys that've been working for a long time together, and you want to see what this guy's made of. You want to see what he can do, and that just doesn't mean we're gonna haze him. We're gonna treat him like he's not a person, but he's gonna get a hard time regardless. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, so like, my favorite class to teach is a MS1, like a freshman instructor at Arizona State was the one on warrior ethos and Army values, right? And I didn't teach the class the way it was intended to be taught, and I didn't use the curriculum in which Cadet Command told me to teach. I created my own. So here's what's lost, I think, is so when talking about warrior ethos, they always talk about Medal of Honor recipients, right? And I am so thankful for all the Medal of Honor recipients, and they provided, the world with so much, and they've done so many amazing things. And my biggest military hero is probably Roy Benavides. I mean, his story is crazy, inspirational, and awesome. But I think where we're failing is we gotta be able to provide a better understanding to our junior leaders and our junior soldiers. So the way that I would talk about it especially the never leave a fallen comrade. For those that are getting ready to transition into becoming a junior NCO or an NCO or a senior NCO, is that last portion is so important, because people automatically push that to combat. Well, the reality is a lot of people are not going to combat right now. So,
Exactly.
So how does that play into my day-to-day life, right? So you at some point you are going to have a soldier that makes mistakes, whether that's stealing from the PX, it's a DUI, it's drug use, it's whatever, right? There's a long list of things that soldiers could do. But that soldier is now a fallen comrade, right? So what are you going to do in that specific instance? Are you going to yell at them and treat them like shit for you making a poor decision? I mean, they're going to pay for it, and potentially that punishment is separation from the Army, and that's something that they're going to have to fight for the rest of their life. So what that person really needs at that point is a person and a leader to rely on, so being that comfort,
exactly,
being that safety blanket. Hey, I understand that you're going through hard times. I'm going to help you get through these times, and I will be 100% open and honest with you throughout the entire process on where it stands and where
Sometimes
where it's at. Yeah,
that's all you need to fix a problem.
Yeah,
a big example is I had I'm not gonna get into deals, but I had a time that I was kind of falling back and getting distracted on my career. But I got pulled into your office, had a talk with my platoon sergeant at the time. At the time, Sergeant First Class, but today is First Sergeant Smith, great guy. Had a talk with First Sergeant Max Pumfrey here and Captain Williams, and we talked, and all I needed was to talk, and from then there it was just progressing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes all you need is to talk to someone. Thank you. I just rely on a lot of people that I look up to. Like you said, just be the best you can be. What is your key to the success?
Having faith in others, I think, right?
Okay.
So it's all encompassed in the things that I've talked about. Being the best version of yourself, treating people like people. You're going to be successful if you do right by others, right? So the Army talks about, mission success and soldier welfare, and it's in the creed of the non-commissioned officer, right? But, ultimately, if soldier welfare is your number one priority, the mission will always be successful, 100%.
By welfare does not mean just have the soldier happy and go home early.
Right.
Welfare is like having the soldier trained and obviously caring about his morale and stuff like that.
Right, absolutely. And by taking care of your soldiers and ensuring that they're in the right spot and they're where they need to be, the mission will always be successful, right? So the key to my success has been the subordinates below me, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing that I've done. It's just me getting to know those individuals and taking the time to take care of them. And then through their hard work leads to, other success, right? And then the big thing is hopefully that's something that you can inspire and teach to subordinate leaders is the importance of people, right? And the importance of those that are subordinate. And if that message is conveyed, then they too will be successful.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. We're almost about to wrap it up here, right? And I don't want us to get mistaken with the question I asked before, but do you have someone that you use that as inspiration to like on your day to day? Like I have some people that I inspire myself to try to be the same as them or even better. Do you have someone like that?
My inspiration, hands down, every day is my wife and my kids. Mm-hmm. They inspire me every day. Like my wife is amazing, right? So she works part-time. She goes to the gym every single day. She always cleans the house. She always has dinner prepared. I mean, how she does it, I have no clue. Like,
yeah,
and I try. Crazy. Like she was working today, and I was trying to get errands done and go shopping and take care of the kids, and the craziness of multitasking that has to be done in order to do what she does every day. I don't know. I don't get it. She's absolutely amazing. she pushes me to want to be, even more successful, as a person, not just professionally, but personally. She makes me want to be better every single day. And my kids, I want them to grow in an environment in which they respect people and they respect themselves, and they have goals and they have motivation and they have drive.
You're the first person that they look up to.
Right. And that's what, you talk about my running. I don't choose to run marathons because I love running that much.
Even though you do running.
I mean, it's a great stress relief.
Remember that time that you paid like 150 euros to do a stupid amount of miles?
But I mean, it's for a good reason, right? I get some physical fitness. It helps my cardiovascular fitness. I get a free T-shirt, potentially a medal,
wow.
right? I guess it's not a free T-shirt, but I get a T-shirt out of the deal, right?
It's a $150 T-shirt.
Yeah,
a whole bunch of pain.
Yeah, it's worth it, right? But so I do it because at the finish line, my wife and my kids are always there.
Yeah.
Right. And every time I cross the finish line, I'm finishing with a smile on my face, and I want them to see, that, hey, I just ran 26 miles or I ran 40 miles. Right. And I'm still smiling. I'm still happy, and I want them to think fitness is a priority, and I want them to be healthy and live long lives. And I don't want them to be a national statistic. I mean, America is obese. That's what everybody talks about, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I don't want them to be part of that statistic, because with obesity comes diabetes and all sorts of other stuff, right? But, my inspiration hands down is my wife and my kids, and they motivate the hell out of me, and I love them with all my heart, and they will forever be my everything.
That's great. That's great. And I'm going to go to the last question right now. Is nothing to do with leadership. This is actually going to be probably a little bit funny for people that know what it is. What happened to the guidon when Captain Osborne was about to leave?
I don't know. I wish I knew. So the story is, for everybody that'll be listening here, is we kept our guidon in the troop, right? And locked the troop up for the weekend, came back on Monday, and the staff was there. However, the guidon itself, and a streamer that was given to us for being the best company troop battery in the brigade.
That's why it was stolen.
We're missing, right? So
it was probably Anvil. She was first on at the time.
It wouldn't have been Cameron.
First on camera, I know it was you. I hope you're listening to this.
It was missing. It was the guidon was removed. The streamer was cut. I think that was the first time that a lot of people would see me really, really pissed off.
I think it's the only time I've ever seen you pissed off.
Yeah. I threw the staff. There was a lot of yelling. I don't know. I dug into it for a little bit. Captain Osborne, he was the outgoing commander, and Captain Williams was the inbound commander. No, I had the other one framed for him, so he did not have that one. So they both asked me to let it go, so I kind of let it go. But it still strikes a nerve, to include now in HHT. I keep the guidon hidden every single day. I take it and keep it in a special place to ensure that doesn't happen. That was a difficult time. I was very upset.
I mean, we just I'm kind of embarrassed saying this, but we just had this past week right before we went on leave. One of the new guys, like, dude's brand new to the troop, brand new to the unit. He got caught trying to take Amber Troop's guidon. Oh. Like in the middle, right after PT, literally right after PT. I'm like, what an idiot.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You should never do it to your peers, right? Especially being so close with the Anvil Troop. I know that they're quote unquote our competition, right? Because we're the two like troops within the squadron, both being the mounted maneuver troops, right? But at the end of the day, like Anvil and Bulldog and Comanche, I mean, all five troops need to be one in order to accomplish the mission. And I don't know. I don't know what happened to the guidon. I would love to know, but it's one of those things that just always eat at me.
People blame me for taking that guidon till this day, right? Because that weekend, that week, something something I didn't do. I messed up at work, and my punishment was to stay at troop during Saturday and Sunday from 07 to 1900 every day, right? And I left on Sunday. The Godon was there, and we came back the next morning, the Godon was gone. And I'm like, oh, I already know what's gonna happen now. So people, to this day, people still make jokes. Where's the Godon? Where's the Godon? And I'm like,
yeah, and you know the thing is, like, there's a lot.
I wish I took it.
Huh?
I wish I took it.
Yeah,
Memories.
Yeah, good memories. You know, it is done. It is over. It is what it is. Will I forever be upset a little bit? Yeah, I will. But it's done and it's over. There's nothing I can do to fix it. You know, and ultimately, I figured within the first couple hours, with nobody being able to provide anything, that I would probably never see it again. And it's just one of those things, like, you get over it, but you don't get over it. You know, it just kind of stays with you. Yeah.
And for the dude that tried to take the Godon of Amber Troop the other day, for those that do not know and never seen First Sergeant Cameron, he's a pretty big dude, and he does not look like a guy you want to get mad. So that dude probably got chewed out by pretty upset First Sergeant.
First Sergeant Cameron's a pretty awesome fella. He's a good buddy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was my last question, and we have come to an end, unfortunately, of the first ever episode of the World's Greatest Leaders podcast. Max, it's an honor to have you on. It was great spending some time with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on and talking a little bit about your experiences and some decisions you made in your life throughout your career, and sharing a little bit of knowledge to me and the listeners. I wish you a Happy New Year. Listeners, I wish y'all a Happy New Year, and stand by for the next episode. I'm going to have some pretty awesome people come on and share some more knowledge and leadership experiences to you guys, right? I'll see you guys in the next episode. You guys have a wonderful New Year. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks for having me, JP. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for asking me.
No problem. Thanks for coming.